Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Voss, Editor-in-Chief of Disobedient Media, and I'm here to read you another one of our articles. It's a little bit older. It was published on March 31st, 2017, and it's titled Park Geun-hye's Arrest Disrupts Foreign Influence in South Korean Politics. And the reason I'm reading this to you today is because a number of new events have occurred in this story specifically, and I published an article describing those updates and discussing it in terms of the previous reporting we've done. And so I thought it would be important to provide a video of the background stories of the previous stories so that people who don't have time to read the background articles can also listen to this in addition to our newest article. And it's a really, really important story, even though it's not based in the West. Obviously, there is a bigger world out there than America and the Western countries, but also it is a universally important story because it shows that, real consequences for corrupt leaders are possible. It just takes a lot of public willpower, but real consequences can happen for corrupt leaders who are exposed by email leaks. So, without further ado, I'll just get into it. So, I wrote in 2017, former South Korean President Park Geun-hye was arrested yesterday, which was obviously in March 2017, on charges including extortion, bribery, and abuse of power. The New York Times reports that Park is expected to remain in jail throughout her trial. Prosecutors expressed concern that evidence might be destroyed if Park was not placed into custody. NPR reported that the disgraced former leader would face trial and would face a total of 13 charges, including bribery, abuse of power, and the leaking of state secrets. Park's arrest comes as the latest development in a scandal that has so far toppled major South Korean political and economic entities, including an indictment for the de facto leader of Samsung. Effects will likely be felt both internationally and nationally, especially for those who used their ties to the fallen leader as a means of extorting foreign influence into South Korean politics. Prosecutors applied for an arrest warrant for the former president earlier in the week, which obviously, again, is in 2017. Shortly after a constitutional court ruling upheld the earlier December impeachment, and Park was summoned for 14 hours of questioning, less than a week after the constitutional court ruling also removed her presidential immunity from prosecution. So what that means is that Park was removed from office in December of 2016. But after that, even though she was removed, she was immune to prosecution because she was president. And it took a constitutional court ruling to both confirm her removal and to remove that presidential immunity so that she could then face charges, and that's exactly what happened. And in the article, if you click on the link to the original article that I will include in the description of this video, you can see the massive image of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of South Koreans in the streets of Seoul. And what's so mind-boggling about this is that when you view the image, it looks like a lot of car lights that are like time-lapse image of a lot of car lights going down a street. But the thing is that those are not car lights. Those are the lights of individual candles of hundreds of thousands of people going down the street in Seoul to demand Park's removal and that consequences be had from the revelation of her corruption. And so it shows the absolutely massive public outrage at this the corruption that was revealed here. So if you want to see that amazing image, please click on the link, and I will try to, I don't think because of the way it's a portrait size image, so I can't really make it the thumbnail of this video, but if I could, I would. So I just encourage you to go look that up. And if you want to look up more images of that, seriously, just for the sake of it, just in any search engine that's not Google, look up South Korean protest 2016. And you will be amazed at the number of people in South Korea that took to the streets for weeks over this issue. Anyway, back to the article. Sorry about my ramble. Park's close aide, Choi Soon-sil, and the leader of the Samsung Group had previously been indicted, so before Park was charged with corruption charges, her aide, Choi Soon-sil, and the de facto leader of Samsung Group were both indicted on charges involving corruption and bribery. The events leading to Park's arrest prompted hundreds of thousands of South Koreans to take to the streets last year, demanding Park's removal and leading to her impeachment in December, and those events took place in 2016. right around November and December 2016, which is amazing because, around the world, on the other side of the planet, you have a similar amazing amount of scandalous revelations coming out of the Podesta emails that, you could argue has played some role in Clinton's loss that in those same months. So anyway, the New York Times called massive demonstrations demanding Park's removal, quote, one of the largest anti-government protests in recent decades, and they mean globally. Multiple news outlets described the size of the protest in terms of hundreds of thousands, but South Koreans gathered weekly for over a month, with estimates on the size of the crowds ranging up to 1.5 million South Koreans. Polling during the period showed that 40% of South Koreans thought Park should resign, and I would guess that the actual number was much higher than that. Embedded among allegations of bribery and abuse of power, there were also claims that Park's close advisor, Choi Soon-sil, had practiced a form of shamanism as part of her influence over the former president. NPR reported that members of Park's own party said that she had fallen under the spell of a religious cult. So this is Park's own political party. Can you imagine if the Democrats came out and said that Hillary Clinton had fallen under the spell of a religious cult? I mean, just think about that for a minute. This is the president's own party saying that to press. It's mind-boggling. Anyway, so while the head of the main opposition party described the situation as a terrifying theocracy, this is the political discourse they were having in the wake of these events. They were talking about it in these terms in South Korea. Park responded with resolute denials in regards to the allegations of her participation in cult activities. And while some outside South Korea, such as Angela Merkel, will no doubt pay close attention to the former President Park's arrest, Korean media had described the particularly warm relationship between the two leaders, and Merkel was not the only leader that was particularly friendly with Park. Obama and Park appeared numbers of times at podiums together, so she had a good international relationship with a number of leaders of state. But in particular, Park and Merkel were described in media reports as having forged a personal bond ever since they first met, and they met at least 5 times, with Merkel characterized by press as having greatly influenced Park's political consciousness. And when details of the scandal were initially revealed, advisor Choi Soon-sil's daughter actually fled to Germany to hide. De facto leader of the Samsung Group, Lee Jae-hong, was indicted in February of 2017. The Wall Street Journal reported on his arrest on charges of embezzlement, bribery, and perjury stemming from Samsung's payment of 43 billion Korean won, which it translates to 36.6 million US dollars, to entities allegedly linked to Ms. Choi. Samsung's alleged bribes were said to have been related to a merger which would have strengthened Lee's leadership of Samsung. So basically you have the de facto leader of Samsung paying an advisor of the president in order to get leverage in their approval of a favorable merger for his interests. So that is very similar to the type of allegations that you have of pay-to-play with the Clinton Foundation. To put the effect of such charges into perspective, the Samsung Group is South Korea's largest conglomerate. It is responsible for mind-boggling estimated 20% of the South Korean economy. So you have one company, one massive entity that is responsible for 1/5 of the entire country's economy, and the de facto leader of that company then being arrested and indicted on charges of bribery and corruption. That is just earth-shattering news. The group holds numerous subsidiary companies in diverse industries, including medical care, shipbuilding, theme parks, and insurance. That one central scandal would topple not only former President Park, but lead to the indictment of the leader of a massive economic entity like Samsung is nothing less than monumental. Revelations made by WikiLeaks had proved damning for Samsung. Earlier in 2017, WikiLeaks stated in their press release for Vault 7 that Samsung's smart TV was also affected by a program known as Weeping Angel, which was said to turn Samsung smart TVs into open mics even when switched off. Notable Samsung ties have also included sponsorship of the troubled Clinton Global Initiative. Samsung collaborated with the Clinton Foundation, including on projects including advancing child health through mobile technologies, a commitment which CGI estimated to be valued at about $2 million US. Samsung Electronics additionally participated in the CGI Youth Employment Initiative, which raised a total of $72 million US. So, and Samsung has also previously entered into business partnerships with the prominent Rothschild family, with Investment Europe reporting that Samsung Asset Management would be distributing Edmund de Rothschild's asset management flagship, European Convertible Bond Fund, in South Korea. In 2016, Business Korea also reported that Samsung Asset Management was to release a European dividend fund, with Rothschild and Samsung Asset Management London acting as the portfolio consultant and manager for the fund, respectively. Park's impeachment and final dismissal gave a nascent example of the effectiveness of populism. Although sparsely reported by Western press, given the significance of the allegations, protests in South Korea dragged on for months, with the participation of hundreds of thousands every single time that there was a gathering. I mean, this is every single weekend you had hundreds of thousands of South Koreans in the streets. So the overall participation was over 1 million. That some individuals at the center of South Korean economic and political life would be not only removed from office, but arrested as a result, demonstrates the power of public will. And new elections were set for May 9, 2017, and they took place, and there is now a new South Korean president. And I will basically leave it there. That's the end of the article, but it's an incredible story, and that's why I've reported on it consistently over the last year, because it is a massive example of what could have been, in my opinion, in the US if we had a shred of integrity in our judicial system, or if people had been sufficiently angry at the revelations from the DNC emails and the Podesta emails. I believe that we could have had a similar outcome, but it is what it is. And my name is Elizabeth Voss. You can find me on Twitter at Elizabeth, Leavos. You can find me on Steemit as well. You can find Disobedient News on Twitter at Disobedient. You can find Disobedient Media on Twitter at Disobedient News. I always mess that up. I apologize. And you can also find us on Facebook, if Facebook allows us to remain alive for over a week. And obviously, please visit our website and take a look at some of these articles, because they really, I believe that we look at these issues in a way that, although we try to cite legacy press in order to help people understand that these are issues that are out in the open, I believe we take a really great in-depth alternative look at some of these issues and their importance. We look at their importance especially in a different way than legacy press would. So thank you so much. I will see you next time, and have a good one.